Greetings, indie game fans. Welcome back to I Dream of Indie. This is Ole Gamer Joe here with another review for you today as we look at Override 2 Super Mech League on the Steam PC platform. This one comes from developer Modus Studios Brazil, and it was published by Modus Games, priced at $29.99, but there is the Ultraman edition, which includes everyone's favorite hero from the past, Ultraman. For some reason, I owned his Super Nintendo game for $44.98. This includes the entire Season Pass DLC as well. This game is also available on the Nintendo Switch, the Xbox One and the X, and the PS4 and the 5. Override 2 is a fighting game at its heart, but it doesn't exactly play like the Street Fighters and Mortal Kombats of the world. No, you will use the triggers and the bumpers for the majority of your standard attacks in this title, and you'll also string them together in certain combinations in order to pull off a variety of different crazy special moves depending on the mech that you're playing as. Attacking and or mashing in my case is simple enough for almost any player to get into, but you will use the face buttons for a few different reasons, including having the option to throw up a shield, which can be broken after you sustain a few attacks. You do also have the ability to dash around the screen and avoid enemy attacks, as well as grab enemies and throw them, or even grab different items that are scattered across these maps. To top it all off, of course, you can gain a screen-filling super attack by standing in a yellow light for long enough and charging your meter, and then clicking in the stick in order to unleash it. These will do some pretty serious damage. While the majority of these 20 different mechs do control exactly the same, they feel fresh enough from one another given the fact that they all have these unique special abilities. Ultimately, the combat is very arcade-influenced, I would say. It's enjoyable enough for anyone to really jump into, and it's not hard to master, but there is enough skill involved where you don't feel entirely bored either. I was talking to a friend a little bit earlier in the day about this game, and he mentioned he had played the original, which I have not, and it reminded him a bit of Virtual On, the Sega classic, and I could kind of see that. As far as actual gameplay modes, that is a little bit of a disappointment in this title, as there's not too many to choose from, but the game doesn't necessarily need a ton of them either. You do have a quick play option, which allows for 1v1 matches, and unfortunately, at the time of this review, nobody was playing the game online, or the online wasn't working. I couldn't get a match going, so the quick play option ended up being a little bit useless to me. There is the option for private matches, so if you do know someone that has the game, then you can probably hook up that way. But right now, unfortunately, it looks like there just isn't an online community for this one. Thankfully, though, there is a versus mode, which allows you to play with a friend locally, or you can also battle AI if you so wish. You can kind of customize matches in a few different ways here, and you can also invite friends if you want to try to hook up online again. The heart and soul of Override 2, though, definitely seems to lie in the League option, which sort of acts as a campaign, I guess you could call it. It's hosted by a young girl named Zoe, who is helping you to battle your way up the ranks. Some of the challenges that you'll come across in the League mode include 1v1 battles, as well as 4-player battles, and there's also some interesting modes that might have you standing within a circle for a given amount of time in order to succeed, or fighting off hordes and hordes of enemies. The result is you earning more and more currency for each success that you have, and then spending this currency in the garage to unlock more mechs that you can use in the League mode. Outside of just unlocking the mechs, though, they do have some accessories for you to purchase if you so wish, some funny hats and some little different colors for each of the mechs, so plenty of unlockables to be had here. What's interesting about the League mode is that it tries to integrate the game's online features, and I think that's really neat. You would actually, in theory, be playing against live opponents in some of these modes, but unfortunately, with no player base, you're forced to use AI bots. Thank the Lord that that's an option, otherwise you would be stuck forever. All in all, even if you are trying to play this one in single player, there's some good fun to be had here. No, it is not the most robust, in-depth combat system that you'll ever come across, but I don't really feel like it needs to be either. It's a simple game for anyone to pick up and play. There's a good variety of different mechs to choose from, and while they all play similarly to one another, there's enough variety in the special attacks to keep things fresh. So on the whole, a pretty fun experience if you're a fan of arcade-style combat, and it helps that the game looks so beautiful in motion. Tons of destructive environments going on here with plenty of weapons to pick up. It all looks fantastic and runs beautifully on the PC. The game's levels all feel unique from one another. They're really gorgeous to explore. I enjoyed running around them and just destroying things, watching all of the big explosions. Some of the visual effects do fall a little bit flat in terms of those explosions, but on the whole, if you have the hardware to run this bad boy, man, you're in for a treat. There's some gorgeous eye candy to behold. In terms of the sound design, though, I have to say the mix felt a little bit off at first, so I did have to go into the options, and thankfully you can adjust the amount of music versus the sound effects, but the voice acting was a little bit drowned out. Yes, Zoe does have some voice acting going on here, and that's really about it, but still, the sound design here is pretty good. I think the explosions are effective, and the soundtrack, it drifts off into the background unless you really crank it up, but if you do find it in that mix, some pretty good rock tunes that fit the overall aesthetic quite well. I'll just sum up Override 2 Super Mech League by saying that it's good, dumb fun. It's not a complicated game, not a lot of intricate systems or combos to be learned here, but simplistic enough and enjoyable for almost anyone to be entertained by. The graphical look of the game is really excellent, actually, probably the standout point of this title, but there is some fun combat, and I had a goofy smile on my face for most of the time I was playing this title. A little bit disappointing that there's nobody playing this one online, as I feel like that could potentially be a ton of fun, but still, with some high production values and some simplistic yet effective gameplay, I do recommend checking this one out if you're a fan of arcade action.